What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. We're back in the shop. Jumping right back into it, you might notice that there is a few differences since the last time that we've been here. Go ahead and take a look on the inside of the car. That stuff is somewhat new, so without further ado, we've been here a few times since the last time I filmed a video, so we're gonna go ahead and jump straight into a little building montage, show off everything that's been done since we've been here, and then jump straight into this video. So to go over the actual progress that has been made, we went ahead and tubbed the entire underside of this wheel well. We welded in some metal on the inside of here so that all of the water, as well as the tire smoke coming from the outside of the car, will not be able to get into the cabin. We started fitting up some of the body, doing some temporary hardware just to hold it on, trying to figure out a mounting solution for that. And another big thing is we finally started doing some work on the crash structure in the rear. We've got this structure welded up, and at the moment we're currently working on designing some crash bars to come out on the outside of that and act as like a bash bar system. And so we've been tossing around some designs. As you can tell, this is one of our previous attempts that we've tried to throw on here and just try to make something work. But for today, we're going to be looking at more ideas, hopefully find something that we can stick with permanently and get that thrown on the car so we can move on. Also, if we take a look under the front of the car, you can see that there's a little something missing down here. I got the angle kit taken off yesterday on both sides, as well as the front subframe dropped out. That right there is a few hints as to what might be coming for the front end of the car. I'll leave that there for just a little bit. Y'all can take your guesses if you'd like. Now you guys know what we've been doing with the front and the back of the car, and we can go ahead and jump right into this video. Fortunately, we're pretty lucky to be able to have access to a wide variety of metal tools and machines to be able to help make this process a little bit easier. So like I've mentioned before, we've been working on some past designs, trying to make something work, have gone through a few iterations of what we were trying to do for the rear end, trying out something new today that hopefully will stick, and we can call that our finished product. So like you saw before, we already have this crash support in the rear of the car, but you don't want to simply rely on only that. With just that holding up the rear of the car, there's absolutely nothing from that bar to what will be the rear of the car with the body panels on, and that'll lead to it being way too flimsy. Any small incident will basically cause the entire rear end to crumble, and you'll have nothing to mount your panels to. So as far as creating a secondary bash bar, we've come up with this design, which we will stick on the inside of the car. It'll sit basically like that on the inside of the car. It'll mount to our crash bar that we built, and it'll stick out almost to where the fiberglass panels are, giving it a somewhat sturdy foundation while still being able to be a little bit weaker. So if there is anything really serious, this will be able to break, while that crash structure will be able to hold up. If we take a look at it on the inside of the car, it'll basically sit like how I'm holding it right now. This comes out almost to the fiberglass panels, and we have these neat tabs that I'll show in a second. We'll be using those to mount them to the crash support that we built and hold these things on the back. These are the tabs that I mentioned before that we'll be using. We'll basically have two of these on the top and bottom of every mounting point. So they'll go like that, one will go on the bottom, and there will be a bolt to go through it. And on both ends of these pipes, it'll have something to hold it to keep it connected to the car. As per FD rules, we'll also have a bar that comes below the crash support and the two bars that I've shown before. We'll have another bar that comes below all of that, comes out, goes around, and comes back and connects to that side of this welded in crash bar. That'll weld to this to act as another bash bar, basically just helping keep everything protected, and for that extra bar to be something that's welded in place as opposed to like these that are held on with bolts. There hasn't been a whole lot of filming today, just a lot of trial and error, trying out some different designs that we've been trying to think of, some things that we've been trying to figure out, some things that we learned that might not be the best. And what we landed on was this design here. Basically, we went with this one because it'll still come out and have a lot of strength here. And if anything was to happen where a big enough impact was to occur, it would be able to move up because of this bend here. This pipe is designed to be a little bit weaker as opposed to a design that we could have went with that would really keep this in place. But we want this to act as some sort of a crash system that can absorb impacts before the impact gets put onto that support that we don't want to move. So obviously this is our finished product here, but it took a few attempts to get here. One of our first ideas was to come out like this, cross like we did here, and then with this bar pretty much go straight out and then have a bar that welded back and bent back this way. That was with that same idea as in mind and that I mentioned before, with making sure that this was a little bit weaker than the crash support that was already in the car, designing this so that any impact hard enough, this would be able to break. But the problem that we found with that is the bar that stuck straight out almost came up to where the tire would have ended up, and any impact that pushed that bar forward would have pushed it into the tire, and that way we would have lost a tire, maybe a wheel, with any kind of small incident that was enough to push that bar. So that led us to change to this design, where instead of there being a bar that sticks straight out, there's this nice bend here that will still be able to crumple with anything bad enough, and there's no hazard of getting into the wheel well and causing any problems in there that we want to avoid. With the tabs welded onto the car, we went ahead and threw both of the bars on, and it's looking pretty great so far. The tabs are holding them in place, the bolts are able to go straight through, and they have a little bit of movement, which from what I've heard is kind of what you want. You want them to have a little bit of play in them. So for right now, this is looking pretty sweet. Starting to look at how some of the body panels are going to go on. We've got the rear bumper held up by about 17,000 2x4s, but it's starting to look kind of like a car again. The bumper, for some reason, looks a little bit narrower than the 2F panels. I think that's probably because the bumper, how we had it mounted onto the car, has kind of memorized being squished in like that. And with it being KVD, we might be able to just push it back out and get it more used to fitting how it properly should. But just getting an idea of how the car will look with the panels on, starting to come together piece by piece. Definitely looks a little bit goofy for now, but I promise everything will look great once it comes all together. It's crazy to see that after seeing the car for about this and up for the past couple weeks, to remember how much space there really is left back here, and now just how much emptiness there will be on the inside of all of that. Crazy to see how far back the rear end really does extend. So it might not seem like you've really gotten a lot done, but unfortunately that's just because we're kind of at a point where a lot of the work that needs to be done is some just slow, tedious stuff that takes a lot of planning and thought, and unfortunately it kind of takes a while to get stuff done. Even just welding in the wheel wells and creating that archway was a big hurdle to get through. Currently working on our last bar that will go around the main crash support. Like I mentioned earlier, as per FD requirements, we have to have a sleeve pipe that goes around the rear of the support. This is the pipe that we're working on right now. We've got these sleeves that will slide over the pipe and then mount to the car with a pin going through it to lock the pipe in place. So that's what that'll do. And as you can see right here, my dad basically went and printed out the entire FD rulebook. And so now we have all of that to go by, making sure we do everything right. While yes, I might not be in FD right now, we're trying to spec the car so that eventually, hopefully in the near future, I'll be ready to go there. Being currently held on by a ratchet strap is that pipe that we were working on in the last clip. We've got the sleeves pressed up against the bottom of this crash support, and the pipe itself comes out around the back and back in towards the other side. This not only ties everything together up there and finishes off the piping for like passing the requirements of Formula Drift, but it also gives us a place to mount the bumper. Being KBD, it'll be a little heavier, and so the bumper will sit roughly above here, and we can basically just build right off of this pipe and make some kind of support to hold up the middle part of the bumper to prevent sag there. So that'll be pretty useful. And just overall, this jungle gym of a rear end is starting to take shape. With all of this finally starting to take shape, we're kind of running out of time for today. What's going on, everybody? It's Jacob from the future. We've been here a few times since the last time that I've recorded a video, and rather than just making an entirely another video, figured I'd go ahead and throw this on the end of the last one that I made. We've been working our butts off some more, trying to get this rear end wrapped up, and well, as you can tell, we've made a little bit of progress. If I take a few steps back here, you can see that the entire rear end of the car, body panel wise, is almost done now. So if you take a look through this hole right here, from what you can see, the rear end tubing, as far as that goes, is pretty much complete. As far as the construction goes of the tubing in the rear end, we're kind of done. We've been working the past few days on getting all the body panels mocked up, getting everything mounted to what is left of the rear end now, and this is where it turned out. So as far as future plans, we're still waiting on parts to show up for the motor, to start working on the front half of the car. Hopefully we'll have stuff start showing up in the near future. That's a tongue twister. And hopefully we'll be able to focus our attention more towards the front side of the car on the motor, and hopefully have that thing thrown in here soon, shortly. That will be obviously an adventure in its own. But for the rear of the car, almost complete. Like always, if you've been watching this far into the video, I appreciate you. Please like, comment, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Do you lie awake at night? Are you afraid to turn out the lights?